Hello, my name is Miss Jones and I teach elementary school math. Welcome to my channel, Miss Math Jones. Today we're working on our third grade Eureka Module 6, Lesson 5 homework. Our objective for this homework is to generate, that means create, and organize data, which means information. Let's get started. Now, I want you to remember, before watching this video, you should have at least tried to complete your homework on your own. Use this video to check your work. Let's get started with number 1A. 1A says, the tally chart below shows a survey of students' favorite pets. Each tally mark represents one student. So, I see pets, cats, turtles, fish, dogs, lizards, and there's a field for a number of pets. Now, underneath our tally chart, it says the chart shows a total of blank students. Now, remember those tally marks represent one student. So we're going to count the tally marks, all of them, so that we can find out the total number of students that were surveyed about pets. So we'll start with cats. That's 6 tally marks. Then turtles, 4. So 6 plus 4, that's 10, right? And then fish, 2 more tally marks. 10 plus 2 is, 12. Then dogs, that's 8 tally marks. Let's see, 12 that I already have plus 8 is good. If you said 20, perfect. And then lizards, that's 2 more. So the 20 I've already counted, plus 2 more is, that's right, 22. Perfect. So there was a total of 22 students that were surveyed. Good. All right. Now, letter B says to use the tally chart to create a frequency table of the data. Now, a frequency table has the actual numbers in it. Tally charts have tally marks. Frequency tables have numbers. So all we're doing is writing down the actual numbers that those tally marks represent. So we're going to start with cats, right? Okay, now that for cats, that was how many tally marks? 6. That's right. It was 6 tally marks. And for turtles, right, it was 4 tally marks. Good. And how many tally marks for fish? Good. 2. All right. Now dogs. How many tally marks for dogs? That's right. 8. And finally, lizards. How many tally marks were there for lizards? 2. Good. Now, again, you should have completed your homework before watching the video. And if you need to pause the video to make sure that my answers match yours so that you can check your work, go ahead and do so now. Let's look at number 2. Number 2 says, use the frequency table and problem 1 to complete the picture graph below. The first one has been done for you. So you're using the same numbers from number 1, okay? So I always want you to make sure you look at the key, and the key is what tells you what these circles or the pictures represent, because this is a picture graph. Sometimes you might see pictograph, okay? And pictographs are graphs with pictures that represent numbers, okay? So for this one, the key says each circle represents one student. And for cats, I see 6 circles. So that means that obviously there are 6 cats, all right? 6 students pick cats. All right, now for turtles, what was the number for turtles? 4. That's right. So the number for turtles was 4, which means you're supposed to have how many circles under turtles or above turtles? That's right, 4 circles. So go ahead and make sure you have 4 circles there. You should already have 4 circles right there for turtles. Each circle represents 1 student. All right, so 4 students had turtles. Now, fish. How many students had fish? That's right, it was 2. 2 students that had fish. So you need 2 circles there. Make sure you have 2 circles there. And dogs. How many students had dogs? 8. So that means you have to have 8 circles where it says dogs. Make sure you have 8 circles there. And I don't want to draw my circles one on top of another because they might get kind of jumbled up. So I drew mine side by side like this. And last but not least, lizards. How many lizards were there? Lizards. So all I need is 2 circles. Now, at this point, your pictograph or picture graph should look exactly like mine, right? I put the numbers on top because I like to write the numbers out just to remind myself of what the total of each category is. The dots are great, and I know that each dot represents 1 student, but a lot of times I like to see those numbers because it makes comparing and also adding or subtracting if I need to. It makes it a lot easier because the numbers are already there. So I like to write my numbers out. Now, let's move on to questions A, B, and C. So question A says the same number of students picked blank and blank as their favorite pet. So what 2 categories have the exact same numbers? That's right, fish and lizards. Both categories have 2 students that picked them as their favorite pets. So you're going to write fish in the first blank and lizards in the second blank. Moving on to letter B. Letter B says, how many students picked dogs as their favorite pet? So look at the category titled dogs and 8. 8 students pick dogs as their favorite pets. Now, notice it's a lot easier to write the numbers above the categories and then draw your pictures in your pictograph. Because when you're answering questions, if you have the numbers already there, it's a lot easier to answer questions after you've already just done the work and written the numbers in. Because sitting there recounting dots every time is a waste of time. All right, now let's move on to question C. Question C says, how many more students chose cats than turtles as their favorite pet? Now, anytime you see how many more, those 3 words together, how many more, you always subtract. Always, 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 always subtract. Those 3 words specifically, how many more. Now, there are some variations. You might see how much more. You might see how many fewer or how much fewer. But those 3 words together in that combination, how much more, how many more, how many fewer, how much fewer, you always subtract. So what are you subtracting? So it says how many more students chose cats than turtles. Okay, so you're comparing cats to turtles. A comparison means you subtract. So cats is 6, turtles is 4. So your number sentence is going to be 6 minus 4 equals 2. How many more students chose cats than turtles as their favorite pet? Well, 2. But you're going to write your whole number sentence. 6 minus 4 equals 2. And the answer is 2 students. 2 more students chose cats than turtles as their favorite pet. Now, again, I always ask you to complete your homework before watching the video, but at this time, if you need to pause the video to check your work to make sure that your answers match mine, go ahead and do so now. Number 3 says, use the frequency table in problem 1 to complete the picture graph below. So, we're going to be completing a picture graph, and we're going to be using the information that we've been using this entire time. So, like I said before, I like to write the numbers that are represented by each category if I already know them, just so that when I have to draw my pictures, I have a little reminder. Because every picture graph is different as far as the key is concerned. And for this one, the key, each square represents 2 students. So first I'm going to write my numbers across the top. I remember that 6 students liked cats, 4 students liked turtles, 2 students liked fish, 8 students liked dogs, and 2 students liked lizards. Now, again, according to the key, every square represents 2 students. So as I draw my squares in, I have to count by 2s, right? So for cats, 6 students like cats. So when I draw my squares in, I count by 2s. 2, 4, 6. Now notice you only need 3 squares to represent 6 students because each square is equal to 2. Now let's move on to turtles. We need to represent 4 students. And again, I'm going to count by 2s as I draw my squares. 2, 4. All right, so 2 squares to represent 4 turtles because each square is equal to 2. And for fish, now only 2 students like fish, so I only need 1 square because again, each square is equal to 2. Now for dogs, 8 students liked dogs. How many squares do I need to represent dogs if each square is equal to 2? That's right, 4. So I'm going to count by 2s as I draw my squares in. 2, 4, 6, 8. And finally, lizards. 2 students like lizards, and I only need 1 square to represent lizards because each square is equal to 2. Now I've completed my pictograph. I can go ahead and answer questions A, B, and C below. Now, question A says, what does each square represent? Well, according to my key, each square represents 2 students. So for my answer, I'm going to write 2 students. For letter B, it says, how many students does these squares represent? Write a number sentence to show how you know. So I'm going to write 2s in each one of those squares and count by 2s as I do that so that I can determine how much the value of these squares are. So let's start. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, so the value of these squares is 10. Now it asks me to write a number sentence to show how you know. Now I can write a number sentence a few ways, but I'm going to show you 2 ways, and maybe you represented the value in one of the ways I'm going to show you. Now I see 5 2s, which means I can write a repeated addition sentence. So I can write 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 equals 10, right? Or I can write it as a multiplication sentence because I do see 5 2s. And when I say 5 2s, that's the same thing as saying 5 times 2 equals 10. So those are 2 number sentences that you could possibly write to represent those 5 2s. And either one is correct. Now let's move on to question C. Question C says, how many more squares did you draw for dogs than for fish? Write a number sentence to show how many more students chose dogs than fish. So first of all, I see how many more. Anytime I see how many more, I write a note to myself saying I need to subtract. So what am I subtracting? Well, let's keep reading. How many more? I need to subtract. Did you draw for dogs than for fish? I need to subtract dogs and fish. So dogs is 8, fish is 2, which means I need to subtract and write it as 8 minus 2. Well, what is 8 minus 2? That's right, 6. So when I write my number sentence, I write it as 8 minus 2 equals 6 more students chose dogs than fish. Now again, you should have completed the homework before watching the video because you need to use the video to check your work. But if you need to go ahead and pause the video to check and make sure that your answers match mine, go ahead and do so now. Congratulations! Module 6 homework, lesson 5 is complete. I hope you tried to complete it on your own before checking your work using the video. As always, I hope this video has helped you to correctly correct and check and complete your homework. I hope this video has helped you to understand lesson 5 of module 6 a little bit better. With math, make sure to always check your work just to make sure your math is mathing. And I hope you have a great rest of your evening or day whenever you're watching this video. Once again, this is Miss Jones saying bye until next time.